Another main component of a divorce process is also the child support for the minor children. Now, child support is a child's right both in the state of Kansas and the state of Missouri. Now, in both states, we have child support guidelines that guide you through this process. They determine what income is. They determine what other adjustments needs to go on a child support worksheet, whether that's health insurance paid by one or both of the parents, whether that's daycare expenses, whether that's extracurricular activities, clothing, and ultimately you have a presumptive child support amount that's ordered by the court to be paid by one parent to the other parent. Now, in the state of Kansas, it's a little different because that presumptive amount that's generated by the child support worksheet is most likely to end up being the child support amount ordered by the court. In the state of Missouri, the court has the ability to deviate from that presumption depending on the circumstances of the case.
When it comes to setting child support in Kansas and in the state of Missouri, the court is going to use the gross income of the parties. So it's important to know that gross income encompasses all sources of income that the parties have. Yes, the obvious one is the salary that you make, but beyond that, there are things like rental income, income from stocks and bonds, income from other types of investment and sources, and all of that has to be calculated into the formula. So it's very important to get those numbers accurately in the discovery process. You don't have to be embarrassed, and it's not uncommon for spouses not to know what the other spouse makes or what other source of income they might have. So that's all information that we're going to gather in the process. It's important that it be accurate because the court is going to plug that into a child support calculation and come up with the child support number.
When we look at child support as a whole, ultimately the court is going to issue a final order that covers extracurricular activities, daycare expenses, health insurance, out-of-pocket cost for medical, dental, or vision. And that's going to be the final order of the court that guides the case until and unless there is grounds for modification.
When it comes to changing your child support order in Kansas or Missouri, it's first important to understand that this isn't a very common process, basically because of the cost of it. So it's going to cost a fairly significant amount of money in legal fees to go back to court to modify child support for what is often just a small increase. Now, that is not always the case, but that's really the first question you have to ask yourself before you hire somebody to file a child support modification. What is going to cost and how much more child support may I receive? Now, in getting a modification, you always have to show a change of circumstances, a material change of circumstances, something that has changed, like I've lost my job, I've gotten a better job, or something else has happened that would justify the court coming in to modify the order. If you have a 10% change in what the support should actually be, that can qualify as a material change of circumstances, but that has to exist before you file. Now, there is a difference between filing in Missouri and in Kansas. In Kansas, you actually have a duty to inform your spouse when you've had a change in your income or in your job. If you don't do that, then they can still go back retroactively, modify their child support, and it'll go back to the date that they had this change in their income. Missouri is a little bit different. There is no affirmative duty to inform the other side. So unfortunately, when you find out about it is when you can file your motion, and then it only goes retroactive to the filing of the motion. So it's important to note too that in either state, there are mechanisms for obtaining this information. And if you're smart, you will ask for your ex's tax returns every year during filing season to just kind of make sure that income is where it should be and child support is where it should be. And that's basically how child support is modified in those two states.